Welcome to the EchoOscarDelta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share. All ideas, thoughts, and statements are those of the guest and the host of EchoOscarDelta, and not of Navy EOD or Navy as a whole. All right, nerds.
You actually gonna edit this one out?
Rude.
You didn't edit mine when I asked you to.
I mean, I edited it.
I told you he doesn't actually know how to
edit it where you
300 pounds, not 3,000. Son of a bitch.
As I heard someone say on their podcast, I'm responsible for what I say. You're responsible for what you say. This episode's sponsors are Veterans United is the #1 lender in Hampton Roads. To start your loan or find out more, visit hamptonroads.veteransunited.com or call 757-340-0013. All right. So appreciate you guys coming. Just so you know.
We just started.
Anything for you, buddy?
Fuck you.
Hey, you might want to wait to the end to say that, friend.
That's very true.
I fucking hate you guys for coming.
For those watching, and for those not watching, you should, because it's got a pretty awesome backdrop today. It's a little different. There's the black screens that I set up for sound. There's a little bit of an echo, but that's because we're in a really cool place. Harry, appreciate you hooking up this place for us.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to say, this series is called Bombs and Bourbon, and thanks to Danny. No, actually,
It seems like a stretch.
Danny did not come up with this name. Nope. I should not have even thought that. He would never come up with a name that good. Thank you, Harry, for coming up with the name.
You're also welcome.
If that sounds scripted, it kind of was. But also it's true. I forgot that it was Harry that came up with it. But anyways, so I kind of alluded to it in Instagram thing. If you haven't watched that, you should get on Instagram and, whatever. I won't plug that. That's kind of losery. Anyways, the idea for this one is we're going to get guys together, or girls, but at this turn, guys, together that we're all on the same team, we're in the same division, and we're all going to kind of talk about what it was like to be together in that division or on that team at the same time. There's, it's a kind of a different vibe than just the normal me interviewing somebody that I may or may not have known. Well, that is fun and awesome. Just thought this would be even funner and more awesome or different, just different. So with that being said, this time I do thank Danny for this. He came up with a good outline for this, and we've been talking about this for quite a while, all of us respectively, but he's the one who pulled through. Thanks, losers. And he came up with kind of a 3-tiered outline of really that like kind of highlights what it was like to be in FTX division together with us. And so I kind of wanted to read that just to give us something to kind of go off of, and then we can riff off of that. So the first point is a glorious purpose. Preparing people, our tribe, to go forward is a clear, meaningful purpose. If you can't be the one deployed for a variety of reasons, helping prepare others to remove hazards that will indiscriminately threaten Americans was awesome. We didn't need to quibble. I like that word, by the way, quibble. Quibble about who should be where. All of that was out of our hands. We just knew that our friends were going to be staged places where if they were called upon, they were going to be uniquely suited to protect others. And it was basically our job in the FTX division to be that final kick in the nuts for teams to go through, and then on the other side, know that they're ready for sustained operations. You said a glorious purpose. It totally was. I feel like when we were in that division, we all had our unique areas of quote unquote expertise, or really just interests, that became expertise.
Do you want to back up real quick and just kind of cover? So when a team forms up, they're at a mobile unit, right? They're going to go through all their training at the mobile unit. They're going to do all their, depending on the type of team, it could be. I've seen some short cycles, but 9 months to a year and a half. sometimes even longer, right? They're going to do a whole lot of pre-training before they get to the training unit, and then they get to the training unit, and they're going to go through, surface division, underwater division, chem bio. They're going to go through nuke, and WMD, and air ops, and then the last part of all that is where everything kind of comes together. It's the FTX, their final evaluation, and that's kind of where what we're talking about when we say FTX is that like, hey, we're going to test you now. It's going to be a week of training. You're not going to get much sleep, if any. And it's going to be pretty much everything we have to throw at you and stress you out, and to make sure that you are able to, deploy and safely pull off the mission. So that's kind of the background there, just for reference.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's a good sounding stage for it. But yeah, we all kind of came together. None of us were specifically like, we didn't get to pick our team, just like you don't get to pick who you're necessarily in on a team in a mobile unit with. But it just so happened that all the stars aligned, and we all had a really like purpose-driven goals for it. We all wanted to make our respective lanes just the best that they could be, so we could provide the best product.
I will say it's probably one of the best times I had.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even not, you weren't deploying, you weren't doing the cool stuff, but there was definitely a lot of purpose, and I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you guys, and it was just a hell of a time.
But not Kurt.
Yeah.
Not Kurt.
Yeah.
Not Kirk, though.
Want to make an honorable mention right now, Kurt Swanger. Go fuck yourself.
He said he was going to be here, and then he wasn't.
He did.
That's how I remember it.
It's kind of a reoccurring theme, right? No, guys, I'll be there. I'll be there. Then he's not.
It's leading from the front.
This is
Now that I think about it, do you guys remember even what he did in FTX?
Nothing.
Talked
Nothing.
a lot of shit.
He was there.
Which was
that is.
definitely needed.
That's true.
I do remember him booby trapping Adam's desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he wasn't anything productive.
He was there for comic relief.
I remember a collection of musical instruments.
Oh, let's talk about that. Let's bring that up. That's a great opener.
It was a stressful time.
All right. Adam's favorite musical instrument is a didgeridoo.
Oh my goodness.
So we made one out of a PVC pipe, right? At that time, Adam was going through some,
Okay, I also just got off the phone with NMCI, and if you haven't had that experience,
I mean, he was working through some medical shit.
As I remember, you were currently on 2 phone calls.
yes,
On hold on one, and in an argument with another one.
And
yes,
so
in a place that has really bad cell phone reception, I might add that too.
we made these didgeridoos out of a PVC pipe, and it was just a fucking PVC pipe. We just made a lot of noise out of.
They didn't make anything. Just try to beat the. Don't read too much into this. There's no creativity here.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, all right? So we hit a 2-pronged attack. I flanked him from the left. Kurt came right over top, and we just fucking blasted these things as loud as we could right in Adam's face, and it just made the best noise ever.
And then
Adam fucking erupted. He was,
I broke a door.
God damn it, guys! I'm on an important phone call.
so
And he
amazing.
slams the fucking door. He rips the handle off. It was glorious. And from that day on, they were called didgeridon'ts.
And that handle is still broken for reference.
Probably.
I love
It's on upside down.
It's in the upside down.
I love that we opened with glorious purpose.
Yeah.
Immediately shit on Kurt, and then told one of Adam's least favorite stories.
But I mean, it holds true today, man.
It checks out.
It's funny as fuck.
I think it does kind of symbolize, honestly, like that bonding that goes together.
I mean, you got over it real quick.
And for reference, it's on video. So
Oh, it is.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. Who has that? Because we should like overlay that.
You should.
a while.
Again,
That's your intro right there. Just some glorious didgeridon'ts.
if we thought John was technically competent enough to edit this, we would put that video in.
Hey,
I'm a lot calmer now. He's
got
a lot calmer.
You can learn.
Man, if we had a didgeridoo, we could find out.
Oh, buddy.
but it was a good time.
We can't break anything at this location.
Yeah, I will say the one benefit of working together is that there's been some interesting times, but they've all been good. Even some miserable times too.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I actually really miss, and one time in particular, I think we were running drills and it was night. You and I were on, Harry. You and I were on, and it was raining like really bad. And we were setting up. I don't know. It was like midnight, and we had like some major lightning come in, and you and I canceled it, soaking wet. Happy that we canceled it, and then we came back. I think we talked for another 2 hours, and it was a good spot in the sense that we were able to not only get a lot of work done. I mean, that night we had to cancel drills, but it was the only place I've ever been at where even after work we were still there, sharing stories, talking about how we can improve things, and still laughing, even soaking wet and freezing cold. So it was a good time, and a time that I actually really miss.
I think one of the things, John, when we talk, like the recurring theme in your podcast is always the people. There's like these riffs off of that, and I know that we've kind of
Talking to the mic.
joked for a long time about like that chunk of time in FTX was the best platoon that never was.
Yeah.
And I know that Harvey and a couple other people have brought up that it's not just the people. Like that's great and all, but that's just a good party, and it's a great party. But what we were doing and why we were doing it was kind of deeply ingrained, and why it was so fulfilling to be able to just hang out with everybody every day.
I mean, you're surrounded by people that gave a shit. You know?
Yeah.
You gave a shit about what the mission was. You gave a shit about the people that were doing it, and you know, really why they were doing what they were doing, and trying to portray that to them, and the in-depthness of the drills, the care that you put into the drills, the brutal honesty after the drills, because you know, nobody's going to get better by you just fluffing them up. And, hey, great fucking job, man. You did awesome.
Yeah.
All right, next. No, it's you hold them to it, hold them to a standard that, you know, not a impossible one that, you know, nobody can attain, but a standard that you think the community needs to be at, and you're in that rider's seat. So being surrounded by people that came in every day to show up and, you know, hold that line was super important.
Yeah.
I would say the other thing that I think we did really well when we were in FTX together was, I think our goal, all of us, there was no, we were all locked onto the goal, not just training guys, but making as realistic scenarios as possible. Yeah. I mean, we can go into each, and I mean, Dron was doing the nuclear WMD things and air ops and underwater, and I was doing camp, but we all kind of had all overlap. A couple things, like one, the amount that I learned from each one of you guys was amazing. I like, on a serious note, like it was a really a period of deep learning on my part too. So that was really fulfilling in that regards. But I think we all had the same idea that I think when we went through like our first time going through the training unit, we never lost that feeling of what it is, that perspective is. And I know, like, when I can say one of the first time I went through a training unit was 2009, and I was an NSW platoon, so that working with Navy Special Warfare, and I never, not bagging on what was going on back then, but like, my first IED was real. Like I never just did a simple IED. We did a lot of, hostage rescue. We did a lot of WMD stuff. We did a lot of things that weren't necessarily pertinent to what we were actually going to be doing on deployment. And I took that. I would say one of the best drills I had was actually Mario. I won't say last names or anything, but he gave me that was the one idea I did, and it was going on the way to a hostage rescue, which we never got to. That wasn't the point of the drill. It was an impedance to assault, which was the whole thing, and it was the most realistic thing because we were inside. And we were able to use live tools, so live explosives to take care of stuff. And that one drill, when I was going through my first workup, I was like, I want to do that for the guys. And I think we were all on the same page. And in each one of our areas, we kept it as realistic possible. And you could see that keeping it that, I don't want to say simple because it's never simple, but comparing that to like a WMD versus like an actual storyboard that we took from in country, you could see that was challenging, like really challenging, because everyone was expecting a lot more. And I think that level of realism, whether it was pulling in the blast cannons, whether it was pulling in, you're really working with the role players, whether it's really drilling on the basics, I actually think that did a lot of good. Yeah. And a lot of that kind of carried around after we left. And that level of care, that level of not losing that perspective of what it was like when we went through, I think made that fulfillment, right?
Yeah. I know that when I got there on the nuke side, one of my goals was to make realistic scenarios, right? I was tired of the unrealistic things, right? And then you talked about not making the individual drill too complex. And I think a lot of times we get focused on making this whiz bang, crazy 15 different ways you can set it off. You can't breathe, in the room without setting it off, IED. But really the way we made things complex is putting multiple simple ones in strategic locations, and then people get in there and they're expecting this crazy thing. Like, no, man, that's just a pressure plate. Deal with a pressure plate. But also you have another thing that you can see.
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with that?
I mean, priority of threats, right?
Exactly.
Like, hey, what's going to kill me right now?
And the level of experience that everyone here brought to the table. Like I remember working on drills with you, and you have a lot of incredible experience that I was able to learn from, and pulling in a lot of that aspect. I remember this specific drill we did where there was a downed man in the middle of a road that got strapped to a Humvee. If you remember that one, when the HVAC came, or the medevac came in and they left the dude on target.
Yeah,
like it wasn't necessarily a complex drill, but everything we did was realistic. Like they were attacked on target. We had to push them. And just a little bit of being flustered led to these really serious learning lessons.
Yeah.
But watching you play, JTAC, the person that's actually talking to the birds, and then actually having you bringing that realism and that experience, everything about that was like, oh, this is actually this happened. This actually feels like a deployment, and I think that was huge.
I mean, that was the whole idea, is to bring a sense of realism to a culmination exercise.
Yeah.
Right. That you are, hey, this is something that you actually may see or actually has happened.
Yeah.
Work through it. No index and all right, let's just talk through the rest of it. No, fucking work it from start to finish, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
And not indexing it like halfway over. Like it was over when it was all over.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I think, talking about the purpose side too, the way we were set up, we didn't have 5 surface guys in there or, no underwater. There was somebody came from a different division as the SME, and it was awesome because I came from Nuke's division, and they just didn't have anybody else. But it worked out.
SME is a loose term.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like subject
to the rest of the room.
Just subject matter. Just take off the expert. I was there. I was matter. I didn't matter, but I was matter.
Subject matter.
I'm awesome for anybody that I'm awesome. Okay, all right, you guys take over. I came from Nukes, right? And so I got to focus when we didn't have a team in. I got to focus on, okay, how do I build a nuke drill that's realistic, right? And then I could go and talk to the surface guy and be like, okay, hey, let's bring in some surface elements, because that's another thing is especially in FTX, we never had it. If it was nukes, it wasn't just nukes. There was other stuff that you had to deal with. And so bringing in and kind of working these different evolutions together, bringing in air ops. How do you put together a nuke drill that needs air ops realistically, right? And so building that backstory to it, and each having that specific purpose, which would, for us, our division that we came from, and being able to just run with that.
And not being settled for the mundane either. I mean, when we, just for the chem side, I don't know how many times the regular drill was a rubber 155 round. It's a 155 millimeter round, or an actual metal one, but not filled with anything. They just throw some simulant on there and be like, do that, right? And the second we swapped over to propane tanks from some Syria, and then we swapped over to fused, improvised propane rockets, it couldn't have been any more realistic in the sense that those things were actually happening. Yep. That threw guys for a loop. They're actually now doing these procedures on something that's filled with chemicals, and they've got all their right readings. And it was not as complicated as you would think, but because it wasn't the standard, it threw guys for a loop. I mean, we a lot of really good learning lessons on that, and just trying to keep it as simple as possible.
That goes back to just giving a shit about what you're doing, taking that extra step to make that drill a little more realistic. Actual weight and things. Setting up drills with plastic 155s, like, that's easy.
Yeah.
Right. You having to lug that shit out there a day ahead, making sure it's buried where it's, you get some weather over it, taking a look at it from the angle that the actual team is going to see, and try to make it so that, hey, I'm putting 100% into this scenario so that they can get 100% out of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a part of that also when we talk about purpose. I know for a fact I know Harry and Adam run drills that they built specifically out of their own experiences on deployments. And I also know that all of us had levels of humility that if there wasn't an aspect of that, going and finding somebody who'd done something in that vein, at the time, none of us had been to Syria, and I know we went and we found people that had been. We pulled storyboards, and we declassify as much as we could so we could make things as realistic as possible. We could have things manufactured, and to say it in our group, that always seemed like the bare minimum. That was just showing up. But I think taking a step back, that wasn't always true. And I think being able to tie it back to such personal experiences and appreciate on a very personal level the gravity of why we were doing what we were doing is what made those levels of effort expected and commonplace amongst, at the very least, our team while we were in FTX together.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't always pretty either, right?
No.
It was always,
Fair statement.
you know, it came with a lot of pushback from the teams. You know,
Oh, yeah.
You know, nobody likes to be called out for something they fucked up.
Yeah.
But having that wherewithal to follow it through, be like, hey, here's what you can do to improve.
Yeah.
Right. You may not like it. Nobody likes to be told, oh man, you guys fucked up this. They were just looking for a win. Right. But having the maturity and the growth within the team, that's something that I personally took out of it, was that, hey, we took every effort to make the guys that were coming through better.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to agree all the time. A lot of things are subjective. Well, that wouldn't have happened like this. That wouldn't have fucking ricocheted here. That one, you wouldn't have shot me there. Like, cool. There's so many what ifs that could have happened.
Or the second we put fuses on the chem rounds.
Yeah.
That was a point of contention with a lot of guys because they never had to deal with an actual RSP or render safe procedure in a chemical incident. Like something as simple as, oh, this is what's actually happening.
Yep.
And you got to bring an X-ray down and figure out what's going on. That was not popular at first.
That super useful piece of equipment that nobody ever fucking.
No one ever likes using. Yeah.
And you know what's funny is, as I think about it now, when you first started doing that, right, there was a lot of resistance. Like, oh, hey, well, bring in the team that would deal with that. No, dude, you're the team. Like,
you are the guy.
Every one of our teams is the team that would deal with that if you're called out. But then as the months went on, then all the teams started, like, they started passing that, like, hey, this is what you're going to be asked to do. And there was less and less resistance until it was, for the most part, except for the oddities, they were just like, people were excited for that drill to come up.
Yeah. I mean, it's make no mistake, guys talk. I mean, we try to change the drill up so it's not the same every time. But like the first time we started running, it was a propane tank with a rocket filled with chem. And it had like 3 fuses, like 2 of the fuses were shaved off to be nice. And then the goal was you got to see what the condition of that fuse is, you got to x-ray it and then come out with some kind of procedure. It's untested. So, one of the first times we ran that drill, they didn't know what to do. They just put it in a bag and threw it in a ditch with explosives in it. And they're like, good to go. I'm like, oh, sit down. It's going to be a rough one. It's going to be a rough one. I even asked them, I remember I was like, hey, how do you guys think you did? We're like, crushed it. I'm like, oh. All right, it's gonna be tough, guys. Get some water, and it goes back. What was the condition of that fuse? I don't know. How'd it work? I don't know. What orientation is it in that ditch of explosives that you threw it into? I don't know.
It didn't go off.
Yeah, but like it's that
Only because I'm not allowed to blow you up.
But like over time, like that mentality, from this is the wicket. We just do a quick chem drill to like, okay, now it's gonna be more. And that's not even talking about any of the more in-depth things that we did with labs and other stuff like that, but all realistic. And I think if I look back in my time there, I was pretty proud about that. We took that level of realism and changed the way a lot of guys look at those kind of drills. A lot of fun, even your nuke stuff. I mean, I remember being on some nuke targets, boring as all hell, but
True.
but like watching you throw a very realistic scenario out there that wasn't crazy, but you still had to keep your priorities of threat in order. It was fun to watch the head scratching because it was not the normal thing, and I got a kick out of that. And I remember watching the first team that came through is Matt's team. He absolutely crushed it. But I know Matt, and I know I've deployed with Matt, and I knew that he's really good at threat assessment, and that's all he did. He just kept his threat assessment. I even had to pull my side. Did you know about this drill? Because he was one of the first ones that went through it. He's like, I had no idea. And I'm like, like everything he did was exactly what we wanted to see, just really simple and smooth.
Yep.
And then there was times where we're like, Dan had to go to Dano. Like he was up there running the scene, downrange, or not downrange, but up in the C2 area. And like his guy down there, I think put tape over a hole that was a bullet hole in a propane tank in the back of the car that had chem just dripping everywhere. Threw it in a bag and was like, shut the lid of the trunk. He's like, so I walked down to Dan. I'm like, what did you tell him to do? And then he told me. I was like, oh yeah, that's not at all what happened. All right, and those are the funnier moments. And then like I was like, well, I'll tell you what happened. And Dan's like, I'll take it from here. That dude was out there pushing the earth up. But
I don't want to get us off track, but you mentioned debriefs, right? And that reminds me of the other person who's not here, Mother Hen, Phil. And I think he's not here because he's still debriefing.
He's still debriefing
from when we were in FTX.
When he was enlisted.
Still debriefing today.
Sorry, I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, we can.
Notoriously a long debriefer.
Phil's gonna hate us.
What do you mean gonna?
I was gonna say, he hated us.
Yeah, that's why he's not here.
That's why he didn't come.
The day they walked in and were like, "Hey, you're in charge of this division."
Guys, yeah, I
Guys,
gotta
all
move this thing. I can't.
Fuck you. He's hated us since then. Possibly before, because I knew him.
That's why he went.
That's why he's not here.
I'm gonna show those guys. I'm coming off soon.
I'm gonna show them.
I'm gonna shut down
Phil
FTX.
owes,
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna retire, Phil.
Phil owes every single piece of his success to the spite that we drove him to.
Oh my goodness.
But he always did it with a smile. No matter how much shit he was getting, he was always with a smile. He's the happiest guy I've ever met. I love that about him.
There was one time where he was not smiling, and I almost actually totally ruined him. I can't remember. You remember when the Adobe PDF documents, when they would do that thing where it was like you could fill it all out, but if you didn't click enable or whatever.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
You guys wonder why I was angered that day.
So the computers were also just, they were terrible. They still are terrible. Anyways,
And MCI stopped.
NMCI just
Started out there.
you would click on that enable thing, whatever, and it would do the like spinning dial thing. Well, I did a screenshot of that, and then I pulled it up. And for like an hour and a half, he kept coming in. Oh my God. He was like, why is it done? He was getting so mad. Oh. And then eventually, like, luckily I was there because I had stepped out for a while, and I stepped back in. He was about to shut the computer off to like restart it, And I was like, no, don't do it because I didn't say anything. Oh, that was a good
I love
time.
that the reason you told on yourself had nothing to do with feeling bad for Phil.
Yeah, it was straight up. He would have lost everything. Oh, good times. Yeah, purpose.
Purpose.
Sometimes our purpose was to terrorize each other.
Sometimes it was just to not be miserable.
I mean, you got to have comic relief.
Yeah.
That's what made it all worth
That's what we
it
gotta
too.
do.
Yeah.
The doing the long hours, the intricacies of all of the drill sets. It sucked.
Yeah. Purpose in and of itself would not have gotten us through the day.
Sitting from 11 o'clock to 4 in the morning watching a roadside drill in the middle of the night.
Oh, dude.
I don't know what you're talking about. That was great. Being eaten by every mosquito under the sun.
Yup.
Dude, let's talk about mosquitoes real quick. Fort Story has the biggest fucking Jurassic
It's still prehistoric. Yeah. No, there's like they need
mosquitoes
some.
they go through everything.
I got bit at the Colombian FARC village on my trap by something. I came back, my trap looked like Jay Cutler, and I could barely move my neck. It was just huge, and I don't know what it was, but it was not good.
Like, we all knew that was not supposed to be because we know you don't do shoulders.
No.
Adam just left.
See? Totally different person. The fantasy, though, was me, like, killing you. So.
Fair enough. So it seems common. It actually kind of ties into the next point that that came up with, and I'll kind of read that. And we've kind of been talking about it. Really, the first 2 points are kind of together. Common understanding and respect. You can pursue a glorious purpose with multiple autonomous parts that never gel, or you can be overcome by differing methods to achieve the goal. Either would diminish the satisfaction of the purpose. We all understood the gravity of what we were doing and would have had significant trouble looking at ourselves in the mirror if something bad happened and we didn't believe we had adequately prepared or honestly provided feedback. Really kind of, it's exactly what we've been talking about, right? So like our purpose wasn't to make us look good. Half the time it made people hate us, but the purpose was because we knew that they were going to go downrange. And the first part said, we knew we weren't going to go downrange for a while or ever again. But if we're not going downrange, that doesn't mean we just go home early and don't care, right? We're in a position where we can put stuff together. We can work hard. Yeah, we can get a little bit of downtime here and there, but we got a job to do. And
There was downtime?
I mean,
Sure, did you?
Well, maybe at your desk.
This is your break.
I see you piecing out all this equipment.
somebody's got to make some money. No, there really wasn't a lot of downtime. You're 100% right. Like, I remember the worst shift to have was the mid shift, because the mid shift often went till past midnight instead of like 8 or 9 when we were hoping that it would end. But that was because we didn't end drills early. We let them run to fruition because we wanted to make sure that people, a lot of the feedback that we got, and a lot of, when you go downrange and you see that the job doesn't end at the end of the IED, there's a whole nother piece to it. And I know you talked about it a bunch, where like, especially when things go wrong, when you do a mine strike, right? Like, I think both of you have talked about the scenarios that you've been in where the mine strike in real life happens, and then the scenario, which is real life, continues.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just, you don't just stop. And I think that's for me, I hadn't been in those situations, right, where that's happened to me, but because enough people around me had and talked about it, and I'd been stopped early a lot of times where I knew that there was more to the problem than I was getting. And so I wanted to put that out. I wanted to see what people would actually do and not be like, okay, I'm getting tired, you're getting tired, we all want to go home. What would you have done from here? And I know all of us, that's why we were there till 4 a.m. when we were like high-fiving each other like, this is going to be a simple one. We'll be out of here by 11.
Never was.
Nope.
But like that indexing thing, like that, I'm sure Harry could chime in here, but like in real life, like you wish it was over after it was over. The hardest part is like, is actually not the event. You'll do the event because your training's there, but it's afterwards. You really do want it to be over. You just saw somebody either die or get hurt, and you just want to go sit down, but that's not an option. It's hard to replicate that in training, really hard. But every mine strike I ever did in training was literally indexed after that helicopter took off. And when it happened in real life, that helicopter took off, I still had a lot of work to do.
Well, yeah, because that's when the real work starts.
And you're shaking.
You're now down a medic. You're down another EOD tech. You're down individuals that were there on, they were there when you left, but now you got to make it back without them. Right? The mission's not over until you actually get back.
You got to push all the emotion away. You got to push that self-doubt away. You got to push over the fact that somebody that is no longer there. But you can't replicate that 100% in training. But man, I think from like when I went through the training, compared to when we were there, I think it's gotten a lot better at pushing through that and really stressing guys out, making them carry guys out, making that mission continue to go. We killed a whole team one time. One mine strike after another. I don't know if you guys were on that drill. It was that night. They were going after a point of origin site aimed at like the demo pit, like that was the fob wall. And I literally picked off each one of them because they kind of expected it to be over the second they got to the one guy, and it just never was. And they kept on making really dumb mistakes. But like, it's hard to replicate that in real life.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like we said, a lot of teams were resistant to it initially, but usually by the end of the week, they were like, man, that was the best week we had. Like,
we had a lot of good feedback, man. I mean, there was. And I don't want to leave out the godfather of FTX, Mr. Brian Amrine, who was there time and time and time again.
Yep.
He was,
Left.
I think, he was
Slept upside down in the corner like a bat.
he was the glue of that.
Yeah.
He's the continuous voice that was there. And the guy never forgot anything. He was very pragmatic about his approach and experience to different things. Like, hey guys, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So even though we were there training guys, we were still there learning from, past experience ourselves. And it was really cool to have him as that conduit.
Yeah.
And none of that, not to kiss Brian's ass, but one of the greatest benefits, not only that was he there as that continuity piece, but he always really took everything we said on board. And he was awesome about that, working as a team. Like, for a guy that's seen that many FTXs.
When he's a completely legendary EOD tech in his own right. And I think that's one of those, like, we're super high on what we did while we were there. And appreciating that built on a whole bunch of other training teams that were in front of us. Like, we didn't come into this in a vacuum, and B, in a lot of ways, represented a lot of the experience that poured into that, and also the opportunity to have been like this long-standing seat in that shop.
Yeah.
That helped us just build on the foundation that was there to do what we did.
Both good and bad, right?
Yeah, 100%.
FTX was like a dumping ground at one point. Like, oh, you're broken. Yeah. Oh, you're shitty. Oh, you're this. Go to FTX, right?
Yeah.
And it just so happened that the group that was there actually was comprised of, say, pretty okay.
Yeah, and actually, like, there was actually a specific, like, leadership at that time for the positives and negatives of it. They decided that, hey, we're going to make FTX a thing. We're not going to just be a dumping ground anymore. We want FTX to be a highlight division, that when people get done with it, we've got the people in there to do exactly what we did, to gel together, to all come with like different areas with a single purpose of providing the best / worst week ever, right? Because in this scenario, right, you kind of want FTX to be the worst week while you're going through it. And then on the backside, when you're looking at it, you're like, man, that was the best week, because you bonded together, you went through terrible times. You know now that you can be suffering and still successfully do all the tasks that you need to. But yeah, leadership decided, like, okay, we are actually going to push people that need to be there and make this a thing again.
Yeah. And I also don't think that every debrief that we got from the team was nice.
Oh yeah.
Danny was on that drill. We got, I think it was like a mine strike. We made them do a lot of rucking on that drill, and they were a MOAB team, and they were pissed. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Go for it.
I did, like, back to our adding realism. I know that every drill, like, we started making a point of making sure there was a long foot infill on at least a couple times a week for every single team. Yeah. Because we'd also seen at that point, like, just because you told, just like, hey, you're going here on deployment, that didn't mean that's where you were staying. That didn't mean that was the only thing that you were doing. Like, a lot of people ended up doing a whole lot of OJT that they were not told they were going to be doing during their workup or doing their prep.
Right.
And so there was definitely some resistance sometimes, and like, well, why would we be doing this? Like, that's not what we're doing on our deployment. It was like, that's not what you're told you're doing on deployment right now. Absolutely nothing guarantees that's how your entire deployment's going to go. You're going to get to a country, and as long as it's, somewhat adjacent to that country, you're on the hook.
Yeah.
Somebody gets hurt, you may be taking a hot seat. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting.
I mean, they fragged entire teams that were completely slated for underwater into Syria, into Afghanistan.
Yep.
That, like, had you just gotten a single look, you'd have been hosed. And early on, when people didn't necessarily see it coming, yeah, maybe that's forgivable. By the time we were sitting in there, I mean, you can't be forgiven for things that have happened before.
Yeah.
I'll also say, like, even though I'm sure I've got plenty of bad debriefs over the years with guys getting mad with anything I've done or said, but it never fazed me, and I never took it out on the team, only because I like reflect back when I was like a brand new guy, and like Jay and a few other guys, and some of the simple drills that they pulled on me saved my life. And like just grilling the basic stuff that you're like, oh, I'll never have to deal with this. Like teaching, whether it's something like teaching threat assessment or teaching priority of work, or just as simple as, you know, how to pull off an infill. They saved my life and other people's lives. And even though I got people angry at me for what they thought was unfair or you know, not their job, it was still something I would repeat over and over again, and didn't really let me bother. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure I pissed off enough people. I had a team chief tell me he's going to punch me in the face. And I paused the drill. I didn't stop it. And then I like got myself out of my own ass. I was like, well, I could either continue down this path and this whole thing could be a complete waste of training, or we can, you know, at that point the team chief may have shut me out, but there's still like younger junior guys there that had a lot of learning to do. And that's not easy. And I'm sure you guys have been in that same spot where you're seeing the frustration come out. Guys haven't slept. There've been, I don't know how many drills in you know 24-hour period you can actually push somebody through, but I've had my points of abrasion before, and it is hard not to you know, kick over the whole drill and tell everybody what you feel. But I don't know, it was still worth it.
I think a big point too was getting across to, you know, we weren't as active during that time as we had been in years past. So a new guy coming in, like, oh, this isn't even happening now. We're not even going there. We're like, you don't know where you're going or what exactly you're going to be doing. And to let those lessons that were learned in blood, you know, just go by the wayside and not, you know, really portray that to that young EOD tech who you're trying to get through to would be a disservice to them. Like, and when they hit that aha moment, or you see that light bulb flick on, like,
It's the best.
oh, so you weren't just full of shit.
Right.
There was a reason behind that. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. You know, oh, I've done this before. Have you? Okay. you did it on this drill before, but what about when this happens?
Yeah.
Or what about, oh, I never thought of that. Like, I know.
That's why I'm here.
I got it. But I mean, I learned stuff from them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's, you know, we got to continuously learn throughout the process of multiple divisions, or, you know, multiple teams coming through.
Yep.
Hey, what are some better ways to get through to them? So us being able to take that feedback and not just be, bro, I've been there, done that. You know, you don't fucking know. You haven't been there.
Right.
That's not the way to look at it. It's like, how can I best get through to you the point that I'm trying to drive home?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, at the time I was E6, and then right before I left, I made chief, and it was good. Yeah. You know,
He tells that to everybody.
I mean,
That's literally how he walks into every bar.
honestly, it was a big deal. Okay. It was a big
I don't
deal.
know if you noticed, I'm a chief.
There's like 6 weeks, and it's hard.
Yeah, but you didn't make chief with the Kurtz constantly throwing crap at you the whole time. That's true. Egging you on. You should go punch that guy in the face. I don't think that's a good idea.
It was.
It was. Oh, it was a good idea.
Oh man, I almost lost my train of thought. I'm getting old. Squirrels.
You made chief. Go ahead.
Yes. So it was good, you know, talking about learning from teams, right? Learn from individuals. But one of the things that I took a lot was, you know, just like with LCPOs that I had that I was under, right? Watching different teams that were successful.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to look at that and be like, okay, I see how he's managing his team. I need to do those things. And then just the opposite, right? Team that's not very successful or like kind of fumbling through, it'd be like, okay, I see how backed off he is, or whatever the
Figuring out where it went
reasons.
wrong.
Exactly. And so I was able to take that, because the purpose never left, right? The purpose just changed. As I feel like the thing that tied us all together is our purpose just changed as we went through different levels. We got to FTX, and then purpose was there. And then as I moved on to, you know, going to Mobile Unit 6 and like getting my own team, I was like, okay, this is a whole new thing. Now my purpose is, now I just have my couple of guys, and my purpose is train them and, you know, take that same effort into, but now I only have these guys that I get to have to worry about, right? And it's goods and bads, but I fall back to the thought process, but then also it was nice too, because as we left at different times, I could fall back to people that were still at the training and be like, hey man, I've got my guys. Can we put something together for them?
I mean, that's just networking 101, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Harry knows a guy.
Looking at like some of the best team chiefs that came through running those teams, that extreme ownership. Even if you, as standing there looking at everything and seeing like how he's running that team and seeing where, even if the drill didn't go the way it should have gone, and seeing where the point of failure is, seeing which team chiefs had that complete ownership, that extreme ownership, like that was, they ran every part of it.
John's looking. We haven't been recording at all. Oh, okay. Well, I think one of the that shit gone.
Is that? No, gone. I took a lot away from that.
Oh, no, there was. So speaking for myself, like my going to the training unit wasn't voluntary.
No one, just for reference, it's not voluntary for anybody.
I didn't want to speak for other people. But I also, like, looking back at it, it was profoundly satisfying. Like one of the more satisfying things that I got to do in my career. But the other part, and the thing that I tell people when they're looking at orders, especially leaving their first mobile unit, is it is not a break. You are not going to get any time off, and it is not necessarily going to be fun. In fact, I can more or less guarantee that it won't be fun. But I have trouble imagining a shore duty where you're going to learn more, where you're going to be as good an EOD tech coming out of there as you went into your downtime.
I'll caveat on that and say, or have a bigger impact to the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not. That was definitely not my first, second, or third choice, to be honest. When they say put 3 on a piece of paper, that was not even on the paper. And then they're like, "You got Fort Story or Japan," and I wasn't going to Japan because the other guy was up for it, wanted to go, and which is good because he met his wife and everything turned out well. But I went to Fort Story and I was like, "Oh, this sucks." But it turned out to be probably one of the most fruitful time in my life. I was there for 4 years, a very long 4 years. I was very happy when it was over, but at the same time, I learned a lot about leadership. I worked with some of the best people in the community, to include you guys right here. And the feeling I got, like, hey, I put a lot into this, and I actually felt like I made somewhat of a difference, and that was great.
yeah. I mean, you want to leave your mark everywhere you go, right? Like you want to provide, or be value added to whatever environment you're in. I mean, speaking for myself.
Leaving, I got hit by a car when I was there too. That left a mark.
Like one time.
Hey, I know somebody that got hit by an ATV.
It was a side by side. Who got hit by the ATV?
What's that?
Forward and backward.
Let's not talk about that one.
Too soon?
I mean, it went this way, then backed over.
Well, yeah, God rest his soul right here.
But
If
I mean,
the audio cut out right there, that was technical difficulties. We definitely weren't talking about weird things.
yeah, please, thank you.
Also, the audio.
It is
will
bombs
not
with
cut
bourbon.
out.
Yeah, got to have the bourbon. Most of us, anyway.
I will say we've pushed the
You want
envelope.
more bourbon in your coffee cup?
No, I'm good. A monster.
Okay.
He had a lot before the show started. No,
Kids are terrible.
I will say we did push the envelope quite a bit, or at least I did. I don't.
I'm pretty sure we all did, man. I mean, like
We had real
looking at every turn to hey, how do we make this better? How do we make it better? Even going down to
Making rocket fuel.
making rocket fuel,
Yeah.
making RC actual RC IEDs with.
Oh yeah, we did do that. Right,
Which
I remember.
that diminished you being hit by a car. Because I remember when they ran up to the office,
They
they're
were
like, oh my
way more
gosh,
concerned that I blew myself
something
up.
happened to Adam. They were like, oh God, no. And they're like, he got hit by a car. It's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I could totally see that. But we really pushed that envelope of trying to get as realistic, precursors to the things, and I got a kick out of that. And we had a lot of top cover too on that.
Yeah,
It's a brilliant segue.
that's
to
true.
Geron's third point.
The third point is good top cover. Literally, that's what it says. We had wonderful examples of leadership while we were there, some great and some terrible. However, at any given point in time, we always had at least one spectacular leader in a position that provided us a high degree of autonomy to do as we see fit and protect us from as much BS as possible. And that is 100% true. And I was actually just talking to Randy Oakley.
Yeah.
And he was actually saying, you know, so one of the things that was awesome in FTX, right, was the training aid budget, right? Because a lot of that was focused in FTX. And then at the end of the year, you know, everybody got to put in their stuff, but we were able to get things that individual divisions couldn't get just because of where that training age budget went. And we were able to go to our divisions, right? Like nuke SME, chem SME, air SME, right? Like underwater SME, surface SME. We were able to go to those divisions and be like, hey, what do you guys need, right? I remember we got drones. We got some crazy nuke stuff that was cool. Nobody else thinks it's cool. That's why they're looking at me funny. But I think it's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. See, it's cool. Yeah, we were able to leverage where we were to not just help us out, right? Not just make us better, but benefit the other divisions too, so that it's kind of like an extension of their own budget at the end of the year when we had to spend money, because otherwise you just lose it. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Which is the dumbest way to do any kind of budgeting, by the way.
It's true. No other business does that.
What are you talking about?
Every other business would be out of business. Not the government.
No.
I don't get it.
Yeah. No, when I first showed up to chem, I was in chem division prior. I will say, like, that top cover, Trey, when I showed up, I was working under him. He was the LCPO. And that dude was awesome because I came up with, you know, I had imagination and the desire to do something, and he just let me go. Completely gave me top cover. And I showed up within the first few months I was there. He's like, hey, we got $250,000 we need to spend by October. And that was like a month or two away. And I bought a lot of stuff with that I wound up using over the couple of years I was in the chem division, making all sorts of weird shit, and really pushing that limit. And even when stuff literally blew up, that guy always provided top cover. And we put out, and because of that, and because he never questioned anything, he never said no to anything, he just let me run with it. And if anybody else came in and specifically started inquiring, he always stood in the way. We completely changed the product we were putting out for the better, whether it was the actual curriculum or the training sites. I think the amount of product between when I got in there and when I left was just awesome. And that's probably one of my favorite parts about that is the fact that I had somebody that just didn't need to tell me what needs to be done. He just said, hey, this is what we do. This is the mission. Make it happen. And as an E6, just doing what I thought was right. And that was the most fun. And that's why I work for myself now. On a serious note, like I was so happy still being in the Navy and doing my job and having no one tell me what to do and just doing what I thought was right.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, the reason why you and we all were able to do that is because we all had that thing inside of us that wasn't just, I'm going to go home early, right? And we weren't willing to just do the bare minimum. We were all willing to go over and above. And then as much as possible, we made sure that when we needed that top cover, it wasn't for like stupid things.
Yes.
It was okay. We were moving forward on something that is legit, and something happened. Not, I was just doing what I wanted to do and it's not going to benefit anybody but me, and something happened, right? And I think sometimes if you want that high degree of autonomy, you have to be willing to have that type of mentality where you're working for the broader good. Otherwise, if you don't have that degree of autonomy, look at your leadership. Are they like a little too hands in, right? And if they're not, then you probably want to start looking at yourself and be like, am I worth getting that autonomy? What am I going to do if nobody's watching me? If the answer is Xbox,
Go home.
you probably have answered your own question why you don't have a bunch of autonomy.
Yeah. But I would say in my career, that was rare. Just take the hands
Xbox?
off. What's that?
Xbox?
Yeah.
Like Frank for sure was good for that, but beyond that, the three names popping in my, like Tony, Tim, and Mike
Oh, yeah.
were
Yeah.
phenomenal. And like within a division, it was easy enough to work around. Like one bad apple is easy enough to accommodate
So you bring up those names,
intentionally.
and those names of they looked at the community through a different lens.
Yes, they did.
Tim's advice to me during chief season was to kill the person yelling at me. As a reference, rip their face off.
That sounds
It
exactly
always just
what he said.
resonated with me really well.
But it's like when you
Speak to
speaking of Tony, like you bring something to Tony, it's like, hey, here's my end state. And it's not met with how many no's do I have to get through. It's fuck yeah, how do we do it?
Yep.
Right? He was how do we get to yes? And that's something that I took from him he was a little backstory on Tony. He was a grader of mine. He was an evaluator of one of my drills, and it was a hostage rescue drill. And I decided to put a 50 cal a Titan on an IED that was behind a door. We hadn't found the hostage yet, and he's like, make a fucking decision. Let's go. And he's like, right in my ear. I'm like, oh. You're intimidating me a little bit. I'm not going to tell you this right now, but you could probably see it by my, I was like a fucking fag eating a hot dog, man. It's like, I don't know what to do. So
Michael Keaton.
he is. He's fucking Batman. So he, he's just in my ear, just tell me to go forward. Just fucking do it. All right, make a decision, go forward. It was the wrong decision, right? But
Did he laugh afterwards?
Huh?
Did he laugh, walking away laughing?
no, there was no laughter in that debrief, dude. It was more of a berating of you fucking idiot. Like, what were you thinking? But
Good job making a decision.
when he switched hats to now he's in charge of training at the training unit. But going back to him and getting his advice and seeing his mentality and attitude towards things, like how do you get to yes? How do you get to that end state where you're looking to go? And if it's just a no, I don't think we can, or he never met with a no. It was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. How are we gonna do it? If it was a dumb idea, he's like, that's stupid.
Yeah, it all comes with the credibility of the person bringing it to him and how they can back it up.
Oh yeah.
But like with Tim and Tony, just from my own personal experience, I spent more time around both of them. Like profoundly impactful and super empowering. To your point, Adam, about like just being given that latitude
To rip
because
faces off? Is that
yeah,
We'll go with that.
possibly literal.
that was metaphorically. I have some apologies.
But
Sorry, this is the poor guy at the next.
squirrels. But we wouldn't have been. It would have been really easy to be discouraged
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
taking some of the risks that we took, especially like when things didn't go right, just for no good reason. This was when I was still underwater, but when
We're not talking about that.
that's fair.
Just kidding.
It's relevant. Fuck you, Jerome. When a boat ended up flipping,
Oh my god.
and I
remember
ended up
this.
Was that the one in the surf? Or-
yeah.
Yeah. God, that's cheap.
After that was the one time that Kurt was the voice of reason. He's like, Danny, do not drive that vehicle across Croatan. All right. But like when I went and I had to explain it to Tim at the time, I was like, yeah, man, shit just happened. He's like, that's a reasonable.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's true. And I was floored. It seemed intuitive, but it was kind of a rare thing to just be like, hey man, like shit just didn't go our way.
Right.
Training still had to happen. We were still doing the right thing. We were driving towards a worthy and good purpose.
Well, it's called a fucking high risk evolution
Yeah. Like
because there is
it acknowledges that sometimes there's what was the phrase? There's no safe way to do this, just a least dangerous way.
Yeah.
We were doing it the least dangerous way. Just
Yep.
Is that boat destroyed?
no.
No. Just flip back over and keep going?
We did
Something like that.
Kinda.
later.
We took down about $80,000 of power line once. We left the mast up on the ship where we towed it back. I wasn't driving that though. I was behind it. All you see is snap, 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 going down shore drive like, ha.
I remember you coming to me one day and be like, dude, do you know how close you were to those signs? Well, yeah, man, there wasn't any other room. I don't know what to tell you.
I made it.
That's why we hit one? Like, no. Why are you talking?
Near mishap.
Yeah, not a real thing.
Speaking of speaking of high risk evolutions, right? I feel like anything that involves the, aerial insertion,
Oh, buddy.
that's arguably the highest risk thing we do because of the time in which you have to deal with emergencies is severely diminished.
You have
Right?
the rest of your life.
Yeah, you got your rest of your life to figure it out, but all right.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of risk aversion when it went into air insertions. Like, somebody could die. Well, yeah.
A femur could get broken.
A femur could get broken.
Like one time.
Somebody could land on concrete. Somebody could land off, and we got to go find them. A helicopter could have a hard landing and down an aircraft. But those are we can't advertise a capability and never fucking practice it, never do it. And those risk assessments, which were painful, a lot of the time getting people to buy off on things was when you had weak leadership or scared leadership, you saw it. When you had leadership that said, fuck yeah, put me on the manifest, right?
Yep.
That it's just a different mindset. It's like, oh, we're going to jump in. Yeah. Oh, cool. Can I come?
Tony was always the first.
Yeah. Can I get on that? But it's one of those things. It's like you're not just talking it, you're walking it, right?
Yep.
Or jumping it, whatever the fuck you want to say.
Sorry.
And being able to, the weather's this, the weather, and having that say so at just being that guy for the division, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really cool to be, and I loved it. It was something I took near and dear. I felt like, not the world's best, canopy pilot, but
The world's okayest canopy commander.
pretty okay at falling out of a plane or helicopter or what have you. But being able to push that and challenge the teams, and it wasn't always the prettiest thing, but guess what? Real life is never the prettiest thing.
But if it's not gonna be pretty, it might as well be in training.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, because otherwise,
Like work through jumping in adverse conditions, work through it's not the best weather outside. Is it just lightning from the sky? No. But are the winds up a little bit? Or is there an additional challenge factor that you have to work through and have to plan around to get the mission done? Yeah, it's always going to be there. There's always going to be another thing to plan around, to work through. And it was some of my absolute favorite time, being in, was getting to do that with teams, being able to walk them on, talk them on to.
And those fellas were the ones that were bottom lining those risk assessments and letting us jump into problems.
Yeah.
Letting us swim, doing subsurface inserts into problems, into some of Duran's drills, which the dive was the best part.
Yeah. Yeah. That one was cool, actually.
That was cool. That was mostly Kurt, for being honest.
Yeah.
I hate to give him credit for anything.
what drill was this?
There was they did a subsurface insert into a nuke search.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Something that was, you guys had just done the worked out getting our own Mark 25 course set up, and
We were told.
yeah, but you still did it. And then it's exactly what we were talking about. Okay, well, we had to get this done, right? So now they all have this training. Well, how are we going to utilize it, right? Okay, well, let's figure out an interesting way to do that. Combine multiple drills together and get it. I do want to point out that Harry's old.
That hair's what?
Old.
Okay.
And
But why do you look so much older?
is because
the question.
I have
Answer the
actually,
question, Drew.
I have done things in my life that I'm not proud of.
It's all the drinking.
I've got a
John's
picture of
mom.
me when I was really young, and I had even wider hair than
I feel like you
this.
look
That is what it's
exactly
going
the
back
same.
to.
Yeah.
This is you with Just for Men.
This is from 9 years old to now. This is what you.
But what I was getting at is I was trying to make fun of Harry for having a weak bladder. So let's take a quick break for Harry.
Thanks, dude.
How many breaks did Harry take on his podcast?
Children.
Are we recording? Are we starting? Like, is this,
It's already started. We're back at it.
And we're back live.
Podcasts.
Yeah, this is actually being uploaded to YouTube right now.
it's live.
You can get that.
Thought you were a
I
better
can do
business
it.
person.
Super easy. It's just nobody in our job is willing to take that risk. I'm talking about ORM and risk management.
Yeah.
No one is willing at all to include me to put one of these things live because we don't know what we're going to say. And
Hey, I'm willing to
sometimes,
go live. I'm just going to put that
Okay.
right here, right now.
okay.
John's like, good.
Tomorrow,
I started
6
this one
o'clock.
live today.
On a serious note, the Navy cannot come back on two of us, so I'm fine with it.
Fact.
And look, send it.
I'm a free man at this point.
Me too, man. Huh?
High five.
But no, I think we would be an excellent team to come up with some ridiculous physical and or logistical idea, challenge, whatever to do. Like when we all get out and we can actually do it because the Navy won't yell at us. Come up with some crazy fundraising type thing to get together. Like it's always those type of people that are like, you look at the 777 thing, right?
What's that?
So recently, they did 7 skydives on 7 continents in less than 7 days.
Nick
Cush.
Hey, Kush, there's an EOD feller on that.
Yep.
Yes.
So and he came on
Throwing
the
it out
podcast. No big deal. Thank you, Nick.
Look at you making moves.
He was.
Plug your
Fucking
pluggables.
next dick. All right.
Hey man. He was well.
Nice
It was,
ball from Harry Bez.
it was a good one
right there.
It was a good one. But no, like you look at the guys who got together and did that is all people that kind of were like they gelled together, right?
Being like-minded individuals that want to do great things.
Exactly.
Weird. People getting together and doing things that are outside the norm.
Yeah, because I look at when I look at we were talking a little bit ago. That's where we were talking a little bit ago about like how do we promote organizations like INSOF that can
You just did.
true, but
Drop the name.
on a grander scale, right? Because right now, INSOF is doing well, but they need even more support, right?
It needs to get to the next level if it's going to be successful, like truly successful and self-sustaining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I keep thinking, right, is I look at all the things. How do organizations like charity organizations move to that next level? And it's either it's not by having. This is just me talking, right? So again, just like I am not the Navy's voice of reason, I'm not anybody's voice of reason. I'm not INSOF's voice of reason, right? This is me talking just in my own head out loud so everybody can hear.
Talking.
But I think finding that crazy challenge that is appealing not just to ourselves, that we can get people together that are like-minded to commit to planning and executing. That is for non-EOD techs, people that have no idea what Navy EOD is.
You're trying to bridge that gap
Yes.
from being internally funded, which we are right now, to being externally funded by having a successful event that
Exactly.
is challenging but pulls off and shows light onto the community. That challenge, there's a lot of big nonprofits out there, but there's a lot of small ones, and there's a lot of ones that never make that jump. That is the hardest jump to make.
Yep.
And
I like to jump.
I've
And
heard.
Stu jumps.
How many jumps you have?
5. Static line.
Every jump he's done, he's
Single
landed.
greatest retirement ceremony of all time.
Oh, dude, thank you, man. Thank you for participating and being there.
Yeah, by the way, I walked up to that retirement ceremony and I said, "Where's Harry?" And like, I don't know. I'm like, "Oh, he's jumping in then." I really spoiled it for everyone around me.
You looked at me at one point and you were like, I'm going to start a rumor. It's going to be great.
It wasn't a rumor.
20 minutes later, Harry jumps into his own retirement.
It's fucking. It's fantastic.
What idea do you have?
You touch on something there. Like I dream of the day where NSOF or an EOD like a Navy EOD centric charity can do what some other then I'm happy saying like
Don't plug them. Do it.
they do awesome stuff.
Yes, they do. They do, and they are the bullies in the room. They're very litigious, and they don't play well with others.
Other communities have wonderful, wonderful charities that have done awesome shit for their Gold Star families.
Yes.
And I dream of the day where our community can provide something similar, because we have people that made unimaginable sacrifices and deserve to be looked after in ways that a lot of our friends are trying every single day to ensure they can be.
Yeah.
And if I may plug your own podcast, John, I think this is one of those kind of environments where someday somebody that aren't other EOD techs might listen to this podcast.
Not today. But
Not today.
it's true, though.
Possibly not even this year or next year,
Next decade.
or even this podcast. But it provides an opportunity for people to look and see a level of humanity that you can tie to an organization that does amazing shit.
Yeah.
I've gotten to stand on the shoulders of and walk with giants and my heroes every day of my career. And if other people with real money can touch that magic, that's awesome, all the better. And they can all be a part of this.
Yeah.
None of us want it unearned or absent our own efforts, but there are slices of. Are you raising your hand?
Stretch mine. No, I was going to piggyback on what you said. I mean, the pulling back the curtain and showing who we are is crucial. So there's other organizations out there that what made them successful was obviously getting outside their community, but doing so, they pulled back a curtain that no one ever got to see. They never shut it, and they have a tendency to really promote themselves through books and movies and things like that. And that's fine, because that brings in that revenue for that nonprofit to be able to take care of their people. But this is one of the first steps of, and there's a couple good books that are starting to show some of the amazing stories that you're highlighting on the podcast, and show that, hey, this is who we are. This is this very Unsung is that book. I mean, I think it's a great title too. Is that these are a bunch of people that don't go around telling everybody what they do, but it's a really important community for national security, and it's an important community that needs to be looked after well after guys get done serving in the military, and for the guys that never made it home and their families. And it's that first step of trying to make that leap for that foundation to get out to be externally funded, so we can actually make those big decisions and really change lives. That's our mission set.
But I mean, not to degrade what has been done already, but aren't we doing that right now?
We are. As full disclosure, I'm a board member of the foundation, and I originally did it selfishly because I want to stay with the community since I got out, and now it's hard to even think about leaving, only because to see some of the good work we're doing, it doesn't make me feel good. I'm happy that we're able to take care of people the way we are. But there's still so much we need to do that we just don't have the funds and the backing. And it's a larger community. I mean, it's not a small community. We've been around for a long time. So it is really hard to be able to allocate the funds we need to these areas, because we can't do it in mass. So there are so many areas that we want to go down, but we need that funding. Like right now, the big initiative is have a memorial on Little Creek that is so... when I left every single command, and my debrief to every XO and every CO is, why isn't there a memorial outside the quarterdeck? Other organizations that have been in direct combat have, that is the one thing they're really good at, is throwing memorials everywhere, so that every single guy or girl that's brand new, that's support, that's there for value added or actually doing the mission, walks through and sees the names of the guys that have been killed, and sees the accomplishments that so many people have done. And our goal right now is to have that over at Little Creek. That's the first step, so that every single person that walks through that quarterdeck sees this monument made out of granite with the names of the guys that have fallen etched into it, and they can have ceremonies there. They can have retirements, they have awards. They can just go there and be quiet and stare at that, right? Just have a moment that they reflect that we don't have that now. And we want to do one on the West Coast, but right now we got to finish the one on the East Coast. And it's been years in the making, and it's incredibly slow. Going back to that leadership aspect, we get spoiled. Like, we had great leadership, as we talked about earlier, that said yes. That is rare in the Navy. It's rare in the military. It's rare in general, because it's a lot easier to say no, because nothing bad happens if I just say no. Just the problem kind of goes away. And when we started going down this road of building this memorial, we got a lot of no's. And it took getting the right people, and it took COVID was definitely in the way. We got the right people on that called the right people, and we started, telling them to say yes, and they started saying yes. And now we're seeing that progress, but we're still far from the finish line. And that is a huge milestone for the foundation, and it's hugely important for me to see that thing finished. But it's a challenge, because we still got a lot of funds to raise, and it's that how do we make that jump to get external? How do we show the world what we're about without bragging, without being,
Dude, I don't think it's as monumental, not to be cliche, as you think, right? It's doing what you're doing right now. It's showing up every day. It's doing the things that you think are right to push the ball down the field, right? It'll happen.
Yeah.
Because you have guys like yourself, like Jerron, just a bunch of like-minded individuals that are getting behind a cause that they hold near and dear. Thank you. And just continuing to press, right? Nothing that is great happened overnight. No. Right? It takes perseverance. It takes, it takes work to get it done. And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So, just keep on keeping on, man. It'll happen.
I will say, we have made some really big impacts on people. When Josh was dying, they made a request, and because we're such a small organization, it was well over our budget. And we still said yes to it because of who he was and how much he contributed to the organization, and how much, it just was the right thing to do. And unfortunately, he wound up passing before we can execute on what we were trying to do. It literally happened within days. It was the next day. It was a unanimous yes. Let's ignore the rules, because this was the right thing to do. And then the next day he passed. Even though we weren't able to execute on that, the fact that we were there and the fact that we were able to move so fast, and there's been other instances where we have made a huge personal impact to a family within 24 hours. We were making those decisions. And man, that feels good. But it's one of those things that I know we could do so much more.
Yeah, I would say, again, one of the things that, we have some prior EOD guys that have some very successful businesses and are heavily invested in donating time, money, resources to INSOF. But what I would challenge those of you who are out there in whatever field that you're in, if your organization that has nothing to do with EOD is interested in finding a charity to donate to, reach out to INSOF and we can. I know we're bad at talking about everything that we do, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast. Right? Is it's hard for people to, especially in this community, to really tell all the things that they did. Right? But for those that are willing to share, getting some of those stories out can highlight the things, show your organization what Navy EOD has done, and then present them with this organization or this the INSOF Foundation to see if they'd be willing, to donate to something like this, because that's how, one of the ways that we start to bridge the gap, right? Those of you, sorry, not me yet, who have gotten out and are working for non-EOD companies, bringing it up that, hey, instead of donating to the same charity that you've donated every time, how about we try and donate to this other charity? And I know a few people have actually reached out to me to get contact information for INSOF.
I've got a check in my bag that I'm giving to you today for INSOF.
Nice. Is it your check? Is it blank?
It's blank.
It's not blank.
It's like Richie Rich.
That's amazing.
It's 4
We got
digits.
one of those. Nice. I will say, look, if you're a business leader, especially in the Virginia Beach area, but anywhere, if you're curious, I will come out and personally talk to you.
Me too, because you just put me on that
I
committee.
did. He's on the fundraising committee, so he'll be out there with me. But at the same time, like, even if you're if you're just curious, come out to the gala event. It's
Yeah.
every June. That is such a great time. Mating season. That is such a great time that our goal is to start filling that with business leaders and taking that time to show us who we are. Like, this is a time where we got a bunch of, arguably pretty rough guys putting tuxedos on and walking around bow ties. Let us show you who
getting
we are.
dressed up, dude.
Yeah, no, it's great, and I love. It's one of the most fun nights of the year. It is.
I'll make that shit look good.
And it's for a good cause. And we want to start filling that room with people outside the community so we can show them who we are. But if you're interested, reach out to us, Navy Special Operations Foundation.org or nsoft.org.
And you know what? Like, I want to point this out. So there was no intention in talking about that. That's just how passionate we are about like I don't know. Again, I have INSOF has hooked me up with allowing me to have a space to be consistent.
We said no 3 times.
It's true, but I was persistent, and that's part of what
It turns out our door combo is the same as every other EOD door combo. He just found his way in.
And then they were like, "Well, I guess he's
good.
But no, they've allowed me to have a place to consistently set up my stuff and do the podcasts. That's why most of them are in the same spot now. But you know, I that's the organization that I want to spend most of my focus to, and it's not the only one out there, but it's the only one that focuses
on this community.
Yeah, on this community.
Sole focus
right?
on the Navy EOD.
And so I appreciate that because I can directly see the effect that it has on this community. And yeah, so again, it's the whole reason why we're talking about that is not because we had it in the agenda. It was not actually at all. But it's
Glorious purpose.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if we can focus on something that can help the community, you know, whether we're for the guys that are in, for the guys that've gotten out, that's where we're going to be able to do it, you know, when aside from the military, and the military's hamstrung on a lot of things, right? Just the way the rules are, which is why we have these foundations for the specific communities, right? Because you start getting real broad with your community and it becomes significantly harder to help an individual. But as you narrow those down, you can jump through hoops really quick if you need.
I'll throw out a challenge if there's any business leaders out there. If you're curious, reach out. I will come and personally sell to you. I guarantee I'll sell to you. It's a great cause, and I would look forward to meeting you.
I don't think it's even selling, right? I feel like that gives not to
Whatever, Harry.
put a negative connotation on selling, but it's providing an awareness to share and open someone's eyes to something that is bigger than what you know right now, right?
Yep.
There are many things out there that people genuinely want to help and contribute to, and it doesn't need selling. It just needs sharing.
Yeah, I would
Right?
agree. I would agree. It's a peeking behind the curtain, and you'll be hooked.
And I think we've unintentionally kind of proved the point based on our outline for today to sit and talk about. It's like we have like a glorious purpose of like-minded people. Like we all end up talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we're almost loath. Like part of our issues, we're almost categorically loath to talk about ourselves. And we showed up like super excited to talk about the best platoon that never was. So that we could spend our time talking about a cause and a purpose that we're all passionate about is just helping our friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we ended up like actively trying to like thrust into this spotlight through that.
I mean, it's just helping those who are helping others, right? It is
People helping people.
It's people
It's
helping
a
people.
Harry Bassnick quote right there.
I mean, just people
Make an
helping
impact.
people. Yeah, I think it is very important to always keep that end goal in mind. It's like you're here to serve a purpose bigger than yourself, right? And that is what I enjoy the most about this panel here. Sorry, the ones who were selfish and decided to take other trips couldn't join us.
So rude.
They booked their own chips, by the way. I mean, they didn't have to take the trip.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great thing that you're doing, Adam. I think it's a great thing being involved in an organization that's dedicated to helping others who are in need of whatever it is, mental, emotional, like physical assistance. And for those who are in right now, those who are out, we all have a common goal, and that's to, one, be a citizen, be a patriot, and really just help others.
Yeah.
And for the guys that are out that maybe not have, know much about NSOF, you're part of this too. I know there's a lot of guys that got out over the past, especially the past like 20 years of warfare that got out. You're out there floating around. If you know somebody, spread that word, because there's stuff we can do for people.
I will say that I had a friend of mine who's like, well, I didn't think that was for me because I never was on this type of platoon or debt. And I was like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Nope. This is an organization for Navy EOD and divers. And that we're like, it's easy to misconstrue or lose sight of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even aside from the organization, but the reason why I like the organization so much is not even because of the organization, but it's just one of those things that get us together. Because it's everybody has busy lives, right? Like, I've called these guys every day for the last 2 years, and this is the first. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But everybody has busy lives, right? And it's hard to get people together. So one, like this podcast is fun because you can feel like you're okay. I'm hearing somebody in my community talk about things that I know about, right? So that's where it's mainly focused is our community. But the organization puts on things so that, man, I have a great time going to the different events. The gala is the biggest one.
The first gala event was so big because every other event that got anywhere, even like a quarter of the amount of people that showed up to that, the last time that happened was Scotty's funeral.
Yeah.
And it was always a negative event. I mean, we showed up to Chick's bar.
That's not true. I'm pretty sure we put on a 5K for Scott.
We did. Yeah, right.
That was fucking huge.
That's true.
Yes,
dude.
that was in memory of him.
There's 3,000 people.
Epic.
But my point, though, is that gala event wasn't in memory of anybody. It was just a moment to show up. And that was the difference. Every other time it was because we lost somebody or something terrible happened. That was a dinner that everybody put nice clothes on and had an absolute killer time. There was no tears. It was just a good time. And we did it as a community. And it's happened many times since. And we've had other events. And that 5K, don't get me wrong, that started it. And I give you all the credit in the world, Harry and Joe. You guys absolutely blew that out of the park. There was a flyover of jets, no big deal.
Hey, that was Mr. Carl K-Fed Fedorov. Fucking took that and ran with it. Dude, a missing man formation is something that is, that's reserved for dignitaries and, pilots that have lost their lives in combat. And that was something that, it was fucking epic.
Yeah. No, it was absolutely and unexpected. And I think you guys did an amazing job. And it was because of that led on to the idea like, oh, why don't we have an organization that looks after us? And that was the impetus that led to NSOF happening. And so take pride in that. And I'm thrilled to have you to work with you again.
Dude, happy to be here, man.
And I'll leave his first name out of it also because be fucking super pissed at me. But there's a gentleman and he forced us all and an absolute legend in the community, even though most of us will never know his name. But forced us all to wear our dress uniforms to his retirement ceremony. And it was the first time that I heard explicitly articulated like this truism that a lot of us knew or understood, whether we were conscious of it or not before. But like the only time we wear our dress uniforms is to these sad occasions. Like I still like my dress uniform hat still has the Scotty's wake in it. And he's like, no, everybody's gonna motherfuck me for making people like for saying, hey, the uniform to wear to my retirement is this dress uniform. And people are gonna be pissed. And later they're gonna tell an awesome story. They're going to be super excited about it. And it's going to be the one time this year they wore this uniform for a positive reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He may know who I'm talking about when I bring him up. If he does, fuck you. But
Hey guys, I would like to introduce the man that made this happen.
get in there, be color.
He likes to slide in behind Navy Woods.
His microphones. So you have to talk right into it.
I'm a whore for the camera.
Make sure you tap it a lot. He's got headphones on. You got to get that
You gotta
close.
stay close to it. I just want to introduce you to Aaron Girana. He is the man that lent us this awesome piece of real estate here to record out here. This is your first multi-person
Yeah.
podcast, right?
Yeah, this is the first time we've gotten more than
test
just
for
me
the
and
last
another
Case of
person.
beer.
Yeah, right.
Not a game.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you.
Yeah,
letting
my
us use
pleasure.
This is a beautiful place to do this for the first time. Absolutely.
You know what's interesting is this area is really hard to find in Virginia Beach because it's all residential.
Yeah.
I didn't see it until just a few years ago when somebody brought me by. So
Really?
it's like a best kept secret in Virginia Beach. But we're happy to host you. Big supporters of the EOD community and our man Harry here. So
So
my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
I would be careful though, because Dron may leave his stuff here.
It's never coming.
Aaron, you said it was cool, right?
You guys heard it, right?
Aaron's he's a Navy man himself. He is worked himself up through the ranks. Started in the culinary arts, and then
An MS2, if you will.
and then
Before it was culinary.
went on to do bigger and better things. Went to Ohio State. Got his degree. Came out and you got out as a lieutenant, right?
I think lieutenant, junior grade, and I think stayed in as an active reservist as a lieutenant.
So you were an officer and you still showed up, because we had two officers that decided not to show up. That's fascinating.
Oh, Kurt and Phil.
Fuck you.
Oh, yeah. I knew we didn't need you guys.
It's called extreme leadership. It's not a big deal.
But I mean, it just goes to show the devotion and what it takes. It's the measure of the man that wears the uniform and that shows up every day. He is now running a wildly successful business as a branch manager of one of the best mortgage lenders in the United States. Veterans United,
Oh,
no
yeah.
big deal. Just still serving veterans. Being one himself. But it's great to see. He's my boss, but moreover, he's
More
my
importantly, I'm your friend.
he is my friend. Like we've been friends now for
Monday won't be your boss
seven-
anymore. Surprise.
Shit. Yeah. I'm gonna need you to move your desk to the basement.
Where's my
Can I
people?
tell a fun fact
Yeah.
about Harry's and my
please do.
friendship?
Yeah.
So
Here we go.
some of you may be familiar with the workout called the Murph.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So I went to Harry's house to do the Murph. Probably, was it 2016 or 17?
17, I think.
17. And hung with him, did a good job. And I thought it would be a great idea to continue that Memorial Day in the pool. Some beer,
Yeah.
some liquor,
Okay.
without some food.
Uh
So the
oh.
next day I called Harry. I'm like, man, I'm really sore. I can't move my arms. And I think 3 days afterwards, I was pissing Coca-Cola. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I'm familiar.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So my wife's Googling, like, I think you have rhabdomyolysis.
Oh, my God. Nice.
He really sent it.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. And I just told Harry that, maybe he didn't give Murph everything that I gave.
Oh.
Oh.
Wouldn't be the first time he didn't give us all.
I mean, I was like 3 beers deep when he finished. So
Oh, it was a good memory. I had to wait until after I got in the hospital to call Harry because I knew he would feel bad. Not as bad as I did. It's like, Harry, I just want to let you know I did end up with rhabdo and stayed in the hospital for a couple days. No permanent damage.
That's good.
Some
That's good.
in the veins and some observation, but
Oh, man.
it's a good time. Anyway,
That's intense.
And you still hired him.
I got the job. I got the fucking job. It
Oh, that's awesome.
was cool, man. But I just want to say thank you.
yeah,
for,
of course. My pleasure. Glad you guys are here.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's getting us to leave is the issue, by the way. It's always.
I know, right?
It says getting us to leave is the issue.
Yeah, it's always hard to wrap up a podcast, isn't it?
It is. Usually I just cut halfway through somebody speaking and then it's
That's it.
You ever have that guy on the phone that won't hang up?
on the call for another 3
Nice guy
hours.
that I can't hang up.
Yeah.
I'm weak. But no, I think this has been this will be the first of many.
Yeah.
It's been great.
I think you're fine.
It's been great to we'll have Kurt and Phil out here next time. Maybe we'll have to phone them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what we'll do actually with Kurt and Phil, so we can do this. We can all be here, but we'll just have 2 mics and we'll just stare at them.
Like, hey, you guys got to catch up.
Yeah.
You know?
That'll be good.
But
We're counting on you for content.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
and you failed us. Thanks.
Yet again. No. No.
But awesome.
Appreciate it.
I just work with you guys. I put it out, guys, with some of the greatest times of guys I've ever worked with. So it's good to see you.
Likewise, man. I mean,
Yeah.
we are. Oh, hey, what's up, buddy? Hey, we just wanted to give you an honorable mention here and bring you into the fold, saying that we're missing one of the key components of a great platoon that never was.
Well, I heart you all. I'm sorry I couldn't be there.
Well, you sound like shit, by the
Yeah.
way.
No.
Dude, I'm sick as fuck.
I told you guys. I
It's a
talked, dude.
bullshit.
I talked to Stephanie earlier. She was
We've
like,
been talking shit about him for 2 hours. We're not giving in to your like feeling bad for him.
I mean, I just told you he was sick. I didn't say I felt bad for him.
I fucking suck.
No, no sympathy whatsoever.
Thank God. I would feel bad if you had any.
Well, good. Hey, we're wrapping up here, and we just wanted to, make sure that you were
Does he have the didgeridoo
part
video?
of the.
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Does he have the didgeridoo video?
Oh, do you have the didgeridoo video?
Oh, man.
Oh, tell me.
Dig and see if I can find it.
All right.
It would be amazing if I did.
It would be amazing.
It will make it in this podcast.
That's how we started. the
Ron
podcast.
will learn how to edit podcasts so he can splice that in. Oh yeah.
I'm just willing to commit to the anger levels.
I'm pretty sure we can actually get him to the anger.
I don't think Adam has a choice.
Those anger days
I
are
think
gone.
that's there's reenactments and
I'm not fucking angry anymore.
there's re-triggering. There's
Really fucking calm now, guys.
I've been going through these 12 steps. Well, cool, man. Hey, well, we hope you feel better, kind of. And
You deserve it.
All right, yeah. Thanks, dickheads. Appreciate you calling me.
later, bud.
you.
Later.
Well, good. Hey, glad he still has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
fuck that guy.
All right. I think fuck that guy is a good way to end. Thank you for listening to the EchoOscarDelta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share.